And that was that last time. Okay, that's up. Oh, okay. Thank you for coming.
Jeez, Jed, I should have you start setting all those technical barriers. Okay. Hold on. Yeah. Hey, for those of you that like to, please come on up. We have a gear swap going on right now. Come check out the merchandise. If you guys want something, if it'll fit you, take it. So come on up right now. It's free. Hey. I'm waving at you guys. Thank you, Jim.
Because we have bowls.
We just normal. I don't know. Don't want
This one? I got it.
my son is finally showing some interest in right now, so we'll see if there's a substitution.
Of course, he's
These are my 13-year-olds. Two.
I don't count that.
I'm glad you guys are
You
here.
did that?
I don't count that.
It's a beautiful accident. My mom was I was her sister. Yeah. So you guys in different grades? That's what I thought. Yeah, she was too. She did that, yeah. Do you guys hate it? Because she's like, we were twins. Right? Yeah.
I'm 14.
And this is my baby, my 13-year-old. And you're like the tallest. Are you taller? Because you have no. Yeah, I have a 24. Are you taller than him?
The mules are actually pretty
That's what
awesome.
he's got to go grow. Nice to meet you.
Unless you have big, I don't have big, I guess.
Yeah, I guess at the size.
You're still
You're up there too.
Yeah, like, you're only 15,
Yeah.
right? How tall are you?
Since we started this whole deal. Such a duel.
Are you serious? In my lineage, my family have one.
Is that what you do? Do you do that? Do you do that? Where were you like a year ago? Trial and error.
You're gonna be taller. You're not
It's been a
13? Yeah, you're not. I'm trying to get you to do the football thing.
It always it does make like newer, cooler stuff.
No, it doesn't.
I watch YouTube. What have you done? You guys like thrill.
Yeah, she wants.
Yeah, this one.
Like this one, it was.
I will definitely be
More comfortable too.
Yeah.
Because it's got tri-blend.
Yeah.
I can hear it in your voice. Jim, I was hoping we could get this outside soon. That cold weather, man. I'm glad things are come here once more. Yeah. Holy crap.
That wind out there tonight is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's what.
Like for nutrition, calories, protein, and things like that. They taste awesome. Good. Yeah, try it. They taste awesome. So maybe like that one's probably better than this. I'll shop it. Okay. Yeah, I think I did.
Shoes?
Like, I feel like the Planet Fest days. All you do for like other workouts?
These are 8.5.
I mean, there's probably go back. Part of it is just like.
Have giant feet like me.
Maybe it's like the zero draw, which stretches out. It's
They're all 8.5.
Yeah, there's some teeth, they're like- That's their sample size, so they got tons of them. That seems large. I mean, she probably tried. I'm a 9, but she's
You don't have a USB-C to.
They're all 8.5.
I don't like them.
Yeah, that's like.
Yes.
The big nose. I didn't even know you posted on the captain's page.
Yeah, they did. And if people don't post
Yeah, I have no clue.
Well, I posted it, which sometimes it's no one posted it. I don't even want to.
I don't see you do Facebook. Let's just move through.
Terrible.
We didn't know what she said.
Most of the ones are 9.5. So she says 8.5.
The 8.5. Should be here next week.
You finally get them in, and then they get set. They have two.
Planning 6 months. No,
We have more.
three and a half.
I can tell you. Yeah, you know.
But Matt is welcome. So I plan to do
That is awesome.
John, I'll be here. Once I come make some announcements after.
So.
Excuse me.
It's the first and second time we did this, guys.
Yeah, that's gonna be on our podcast. Is it as 500?
And I ran the whole thing.
You do what you talk about. So we're gonna have it on our podcast.
I was the person that had the 10 things which we know. The small portion of this is gravel. And I don't know if it's gravel or.
5 years.
But otherwise, it's actually like the pricing was.
Okay.
Like more than.
Perfect. All right.
All right, Coach. You want to officially kick off this stuff off?
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. Sorry we're starting a little bit late, but we have some other things that we need to do. We're doing our first gear swap. Where people could come in, they need an Addict Catholic jersey, shirt, pair of shoes, any exercise apparel that's up here, they're free to take it. And one of our team captains, Chelsea, put this all together for us, so I'd like to thank her. Next week, April 23rd and 24th, we will be running Break the Cycle relay. It is a 151-mile relay that starts in Lehigh, and it runs all the way out in Fairfield. From Fairfield, it'll turn and go all the way down into Eureka, then it'll wrap its way back up around through Goshen in Santa Quinn. Then from there, we will hit almost every main street in Utah County, all the way up on top of Traverse Mountain, and we will be finishing back in Lehigh at Willow Park. Break the Cycle is one of our fundraisers that we do every year. It's all the money that we make from Break the Cycle goes towards our new athletes to help pay for gear when they need it. Pay for race entries, shoes. Every bit of money that we make helps out a lot. We've been able to help a lot of people throughout the years for it, or with it. I will be posting later tonight. If I don't post, Ginger will post it for me. I sent it to her. It's our little mission statement to Break the Cycle. Well, that way we can start collecting funds. When you do it on your own personal page, it'll ask you if you would like to create a fundraiser. It'll ask you which nonprofit you'd like the money to go to. Please go through select Addict Athlete. And it's as simple as that.
I can create an overall one on our page that you guys can all share from too if you want. But if you want to create your own, that works too. All the money still comes to us, but then sometimes that's nice because it adds them all together.
Yeah, I'd much rather prefer doing that way. Just in the past, everybody had.
Yeah,
We've ended up
spreads
with
all
50 of
over
them.
the place, yeah.
But it still comes back. So.
Also, May 1st is our Addict Athlete 10-year birthday. And we are turning 10 this year. Here, we will be posting, I was gonna say food signs, but we ain't doing food signs. Just bring your own food. But we will be having a social distancing birthday party where we all can get together, see people we ain't seen in the last couple of years, relax, have fun, and hear some stories from some of our previous athletes. See Coach Blue cry when he gets up there and talk. What? Already? Yeah. But Ginger will be posting all the information about that here shortly. The address to the park and everything. So, and for those of you that want to, please come out and join us for Provo City Half Marathon.
Or 5K.
Want John come up to speak right now?
Sure. Absolutely.
John,
That same day, that morning.
Oh.
Special guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes for announcements.
Absolutely. John, good to see you, my brother. Come on up. How's life?
Good.
Good to have you here.
So I see familiar faces. I see a couple of new ones. Just kind of popped in, a couple things are coming up. We've got Squaw Peak coming up in 2 months from yesterday. We're full, 370 runners. We've reached our cap. So if there's any of you that were considering running, let me know and I will get you guys in.
Oh, I thought you meant, okay, darn.
I do have connections. I can make that
You know
work.
a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy that can get you in. You know, yeah, so this is our 25th anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
I've been doing this for 25 years, put this race on.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been been a labor of love over the years. It's been pretty good.
Walking
You guys over the last, what, 8 years, helped, it's been since about your second year.
Yeah.
Something like that. So we appreciate it, all the help. We do need help at Windy Pass again this year.
Here we go. John, he swore last year, he's like, I'm never doing this again. Now look.
First
He's like, I'm
one
pretty
to raise his hand.
Yeah.
And then might need some help at Horse Mountain, Aid Station 4. Jeff Bean usually does that. They've got a baby due that weekend. And he probably will not be able to make it. So I said, I told him, go out a week early, take her on the in a 4-wheel on the bumpiest road you can find and bump that puppy out. So, or maybe it'll come late. So we do need those 2 aid stations covered. And then on the fun side, running is fun, right?
Yes. Yes.
I've got my Streakers Marathon coming up in a week and a half. You don't get to run naked, sorry. But it's the race, it's the little marathon I had to put on last year in order to keep my monthly streak alive. I don't know if you all know.
That's why it's called Streaker.
That's why it's called Streaker. There's a play on words.
Why, John, why do they call it the streak?
I know.
You don't even know why.
So, because when I do this marathon this month, that'll be 26 years that I've done a marathon every single month.
26 years.
26 years.
Do the math. How much is that?
So since a lot of you are like about 5 or 10 years old, maybe not even born yet. So that's 312 consecutive months doing a marathon in Culture. But anyway, if you guys want to come join us, it's on the 24th. I know it's the same day you've got your little 5K race or something like that. But if you guys want a longer adventure,
There we go.
T-shirt, finisher's medal, $25
Nice.
to get a marathon. Official
It's not even
marathon.
$1 a mile.
Yeah,
That's
$7 a mile, exactly. And I will get the code to Jed. Jed will send it out to you. You'll get a T-shirt and finisher's medal. It does have a little baby streaking on the finisher medal. So and that'll be on the 24th, and it starts and finishes. You know where Nuns Park is. You're right by Valley Falls. So it's an easy flat course. It's multiple out and backs. So you go upriver 5 times to the diversion dam, come back down to the Nuns Park. That is your car will be your aid station.
Brilliant.
And I will provide heat and water. Every time you go through, you put a rubber band around your wrist so you can keep track and don't lose count. Because you'll go up and down, you'll go up 5 times and then downriver 4 times. You know, when you're going down and you cross under that little bridge that goes up to that big house, that's the downriver turnaround.
Okay.
So you do that 5 times, go down, go back. So and then like every time you come through, and you'll always be, because it's not like you're getting strung out over 26 miles. You go out 1.5 miles, come back. So about every 2.95 miles is when you hit the aid station. So every 3 miles. And so you'll be seeing others that are running and stuff like that the whole morning. We've only got, right now we've only got 15 runners. So it's like I said, it's low key, just a fun thing, and just something to do if you guys want something else to
I
do.
love that.
When is it?
So that's on the 24th in a week and a half.
Oh, we can have.
Yeah, I'm walking it. I'm running, walking. I'm gonna be 6.5, 7 hours just out there taking it easy. Because I've got 2 marathons to do the next weekend.
Good grief.
So, because at Utah Valley on June 5th will be my 500th marathon also. So, yeah,
I'll
so.
be putting in my marathon instead of different.
What's that?
I said I'll be putting in my 26 miles instead of different spot.
Well, this will be a good one too for anyone that this run comes later, even the next day. So I think it'd be a great way to come out, show some support, get a great little run in.
Yeah, because it's low key. There's no pressure on you. Just come out and have fun. And, you know, that's flat. No big hills to climb or anything like that. Like
My kind of run.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys have all heard of those on Hill and Squaw Peak, so. If you guys don't know about that, there's one stretch on the 50 miler at about mile 37 that it climbs 1,100 feet in about a mile.
Boson Hill is internationally known.
And the reason it's called Bows on Hill is because everybody's cussing their name as they're going up it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know your name anymore, just to let you know.
you know?
No, I just count stuff on stupid every day.
We did a podcast with a guy, Bill Stahl, who's coaching with David's Warrior Group, who curses your hill.
Yeah, oh yeah.
He made me.
And I think the second year of the race, I can't remember who it was. And we called it some Greek name. And he said, which means guarding the gates to hell.
Yeah, it's
So-
brutal.
It is, but that's a race that when you get done with it, you've accomplished something that is pretty amazing. And that's what you guys are all about, is doing amazing things.
I agree.
And my philosophy on my event is on the racetrack, so I can do what I want. Is that my goal is to have as many people finish as possible. That's why there's only one cutoff at mile 33. And I let people start early so that they can, come out and hopefully finish one of the toughest races, 50-mile races in the country. So, yeah, and so it's a good experience, from the runner's standpoint and from our aid station people that help out every year. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate it. You guys help out with a lot of races, right? You guys are well known for that. And you're great. You're a great inspiration to a lot of people for what you guys do. So, and what you guys accomplish here. So, appreciate you. Also.
Yeah, we'll get some people for you.
So yeah, so I will get that code to Jed. And he'll send it out. If you guys want to join us next week, it's $25. And everything's, like I say, you get your own food, but I'll provide water and heat and maybe have some chocolate milk to finish too or something like that.
There you go. Maybe even creamy available.
Yeah, well, we have creamies at Squaw Peak. So.
I've been there.
What time does it start?
7 o'clock.
7.
Yeah. So it's and right now the 10-day forecast only goes to Thursday, but hopefully the weather will be good. So right now it kind of looks, it's spring in Utah. You never know.
You never know. It could snow. You never know.
It was raining out there as I was driving in. So that's it's supposed to have some snow tonight. So anyway,
Curses. Awesome. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
We'll
Thanks, you
keep in
guys.
touch. We'll make sure you do some books.
Yeah. All right, and then thanks, Heather. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh, this is the spot. I wonder John was down here. That's the air conditioning.
Yeah.
It's good right here. I had a great PowerPoint presentation for you guys, but I forgot my dongle. So we're gonna go a whole different direction right here. Chelsea. So one of the things that I've always liked to do with anyone wanting addiction recovery was to make sure that you knew everything and anything that is that adversary, that opponent, right? As an athlete, it's kind of you, the athlete, versus your opponent, your addiction. And so I'm a firm believer that you can go to treatment, you can get help, and we can make you feel fantastic, we can feel great. But if you come into a situation and you leave feeling great, but you didn't change anything inside, what value was it really? So I'm a firm believer that if we were going to find out how this stuff works, how it ticks in our lives, where it came from, how it started, we can figure out how to kill it, how to beat it, right? We won't have enough time to do the whole thing, but I want to teach you guys something so overly amazing that when I figured this out, I'm like, this is the key. This is the foundation of identifying where your addiction started and getting a pinpoint accuracy on what you need to do in order to solve it. So I know Chelsea's doing school. You've heard of Erik Erikson, right? Erik Erikson, whose parents decided to name him the same first name as his last name. That's a little weird, right?
And we have a neighbor with the same.
Yeah, it's kind of mean, isn't it? Like Kenny Kennerson and stuff. That's weird, right? I don't know. Erik Erikson came up with these stages of development, and we all pass through these. But when I looked at it and I was being taught, I'm like, this makes so much sense as to how addictions play into our lives. So this is not Blu's information. This is Erik Erikson, but I want to teach you how to identify so many cool aspects of where your addiction came from to where you can't have excuses that you don't know about it. Meaning, if we had time, I'd get into the core issue stuff, the things that like pinpoint what you folks believed in yourself that created your addiction. But I think for right now, you all had a starting line, right? So I've noticed a few things in addiction. This is the world according to Blue. I've noticed that on average, something happens to you, something that sucks, something that doesn't feel good. And within 2 years of that horrible experience happening, you find something that tunes you into solving that issue, AKA your drug of choice. So the interesting thing about this is it takes about 2 years on average. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, on some kind of activating event, something going down, and then you finding that substance. So the crazy thing about this, right? Who in here started using between ages 10 and 15? Who tried alcohol? Who tried drugs? Who tried something between those times? Okay, between 10 and 15. It's kind of a crazy thing. So this is a huge identifier. And Chelsea's like, I know you've seen this before. So you're like, oh, here we go. Here we go. So Erik Erikson, he came up with these stages. The first stage that he says everyone goes through, and I'll try and make this as big as possible for those on TV. I don't know if you need to move it forward or not. They call it stage 1, okay? My whiteboard handwriting is not good, just so you guys know. This is a big one. Trust versus what, Marissa?
Mistrust.
Mistrust. So, when you guys first feel this? Ages 0 to 1. Stage 1. That is the biggest thing, trust versus mistrust. Think about that. How many of you guys have said in your adult age, I have trust issues? That's from infancy, 0 to 1. This is what he noticed. He noticed that in functional families, in families that have structure, families that aren't preoccupied with addictions, that when a baby cries, we got some parents in here, soon to be another mom, right? Here you go. When a baby cries, what does a baby typically want at 3 a.m.? Or, yeah, 1 or 2 things, right? Baby cries, dad pretends like he's sleeping, mom kicks him, and she gets up anyway. And she goes and she sees that the baby's crying, she picks the baby up, she feeds the baby, she changes the baby, rocks the baby back to sleep, goes back to bed, and can do a power nap for another 2 hours because like clockwork, it's getting up again, right? What do you think happens every time that baby cries and mom or sometimes dad graces their presence? What happens? The baby learns something. What is it? Trust. It's like, I don't feel good. There's a pain in my stomach. I don't know what this is, but every time I cry, this beautiful woman comes in and feeds me. I love this. It learns that fast that when I have a pain and I cry, someone comes. If I'm uncomfortable because I have a diaper that's not so hot, mom comes in, changes it, I feel good. So trust is established, crucial, age 0 to 1. Think about how many of life's experiences are based around trust versus mistrust. Can I trust this person? Can I trust this employer? Can I trust this, this therapist? So many things happen, but it's something we gain right from the very beginning, which is so amazing to me. So if that's not met, if the baby's crying because it's hungry, but mom and dad are passed out on the bathroom floor and things aren't happening and that baby's like crying and nothing's happening, what do you think happens eventually when help is only sporadic? And diapers don't go change for 12, sometimes 24 hours. What do you think happens to the baby? It develops a sense of mistrust. One of the saddest things I've ever seen is a YouTube clip of a Romanian orphanage. And they showed this clip of it had rows of like 5 babies, and it was like 4 deep with these little babies. And there was one lady in there, and they showed her in the very back corner picking up this baby, putting it down, and walking to the front and starting over. But it was silent in there. And as they were talking about it, they said these children have been in such horrible circumstances that they've learned to conserve their energy because they know that when this person comes, it's going to be X amount of time or hours before it can get back to this one again. And so it's learned because of circumstantial just feelings that it can't trust these things. So if you can't trust things that you can't control, like hunger pains or uncomfortable feelings or fear or anxiety, you will develop a sense of mistrust. Okay? Sometimes it's there to stay, sometimes it ebbs and flows in between the two. Oh yeah, if I lose my pen, stays in your pocket. Don't let me steal this, Jim, because I will. So thank heavens we don't stay in stage 2 for very long. we actually get into stage 1 very long, we get to stage 2. This is a fun one. This is ages about 2 to 3. You guys ever heard of terrible twos? Right? Brandon's still in them, right? Absolutely. This is a cool one. This is autonomy versus shame. Does anyone know what autonomy means?
Do what you want.
Yeah. So the cool thing about autonomy is it's you now starting to explore your world. One of the neatest things, if you've had a little kid, when they start getting about this age, they do something amazing. They start getting ready to stand up when their little head's bigger than their body, and they're like, ooh. And then they're like, I can shoot the gap in between the couch and the coffee table. And you watch them, and they're like, they get one of these, and you're like, yeah. They're like, whoa, why are you guys cheering? One of the neatest things is watching them explore their world. Right? They crawl away from the parent. They start exploring. They're doing things on their own. They're autonomous. They're a Tesla, right? Autonomous driving. I still don't trust it. Yeah. But we were coming back from California. We saw many people in California just sitting back letting their Teslas drive. I'm like, you guys are nuts. It's autonomous. You get to do it because you want it. You're going somewhere. If the baby has trust and it starts feeling like I can shoot the gap of this coffee table, I can walk away from mom, and I can always look back and see if she's there because I trust she's going to be there. That kid starts exploring. Connections are made, and that kid starts to figure out his world. If they're in this mistrust, where they don't know, they're unsure of themselves, they can't trust their own feelings of wanting to explore or whatnot, or say like, you know what, they're little pooping machines, right? This is about time some people are brave and they start like trying to get their kids potty trained at age 2 to 3. They start trying to figure things out, right? They're starting to move into foods and all kinds of other stuff. But if we put a break on that, or if we go in there and the kid's had an accident, and the parents are ripping the diaper off, like, I just changed you, I can't believe this. The kid may not know what's going on, but it'll feel the tension in the air, and it'll say something that I'm doing is making this person upset. So it must be me, because we don't have that spatial recognition at that age. We don't realize that when the kid has a balloon, you walk by and take it, you know, the kid's not thinking you're stealing my balloon. They're like, you're taking a part of me. They don't understand that balloon is something separate. Once they have it, you ever try to take a toy away from a kid at a store and they're like, they're freaking out. It's not because they're giving up the toy, it's because you're taking a part of them. It's like me walking over and taking Ginger's arm. Like, I'll have this. I need that arm. They don't get it. So if we start shunning this, if we start, limiting this ability, if we lock them up in cribs and in rooms and stuff where they can't get out and explore, they'll start feeling like they have a problem, like they are the problem. And this is the bad thing, trust versus mistrust, down here to shame, that's a big one. It's a big one. Stage number 3. I'm just gonna go 3 because writing stage is dumb, right? This is a fun one too, because this is initiative versus guilt. What is initiative?
A tricky word to spell.
It is. That's why I look at it right here. Okay, and this is, let's see, what am I doing? This is 4 to 6. Okay, initiative versus guilt. So autonomous means I'm moving because I want to go see what that is. I want to go put my finger in that socket, right? Initiative is like, I loved how that felt, I'm going to do it again. Initiative means you're moving now with purpose. This is where kids start wanting, you go downstairs and there's milk and eggs everywhere, and the kids got their bowl of egg and milk, and you're like, what are you doing? They're making themselves dinner, breakfast, right? No, this is them taking the initiative. They come down dressed like a clown, and you're like, we can't go out like that, but they dress themselves. And they're proud of themselves, right? They're like, I created this. And they're taking initiative to get things done. How many of your kids have ever gone down, like made their own food and like destroyed your kitchen? Yeah, I hate to say it, but that's them taking initiative because you're still asleep and I'm hungry. It's a good thing. But when we come down and we're like, holy Hannah, what did you do to this place? You flipping little knucklehead, and you're chewing them out. Now they're like, something I'm proud of that I did for myself, I'm getting chewed out for. There's something else that's kind of crazy about this stage here, is what happens at age 5? Kids. Kindergarten. So now, not only are we saying you have this little world of family to operate in, now you gotta go have 23 other brothers and sisters and another parent. And they're going out there. Look at how much learning happens in the first 3 stages of life. They learn how to eat, talk, build relationships, bathroom, all these things that they're doing. They learn more in the 6 years of life. We learn more in 6 years of life than we ever will after that. In fact, it's so important they call this right here success by 6. Meaning, if you have a situation by which you've established trust, autonomy, and initiative with your children or you yourself, chances are you're going to be okay. If your family system has been disrupted, divorce, chaos, abuse, abandonment, all these things, chances are you're going to be over here. So this is kind of a crazy thing, right? Because now all of a sudden things are getting real. And it's interesting when you start breaking this down to see how it looks. Now, don't feel too bad, because if you're like, oh man, I have mistrust issues still, and I still feel shame-based at times, and I do have a sense of guilt, I'm going to teach you how to fix all this, so don't feel like all is lost. That's what's cool about this experience. Stage number 4. Okay. This one's a fun one, because this one is when things get really, really intense for kids. This is industry versus, I can never say this word. Inferiority. Yeah, I can never say that word. Marissa, what is industry?
Building something, creating. being
Becoming part of something, right? And then this, what is inferiority?
Feeling less than, not part of.
So this is always a fun one to watch when you see kids, well, I shouldn't say that, sounds super mean. You see kids that are on the other side of that. This is always interesting. Industry means I am part of the Robinson family clan, but I'm also the part of Miss Mac's 5th grade class. And I'm also part of this Little League baseball team, right? And so they're part of something, they're part of an industry. They're beginning to figure out that I'm a baseball player here, I'm a student here, and I'm a younger brother here. And they're starting to feel the magnitude of what that is. Church organizations, the same thing, I'm part of something. This is inclusion. This is why when you were kids, my issue specifically, bouncing around so much, I was never part of any bigger group. And my family system was so chaotic that I could never build a group of friends. And it was nuts because I could never set any roots. And so I moved into a place. I remember when we started getting a little bit stable in this little time frame. Oh, I forgot to tell you what this time frame is. This is 7 to 12. 7 to 12 years old. This is where a lot of things are happening. Identities start to be built. This is right before a big humdinger of a thing that happens to you called puberty. And so you start trying to figure out who you are and what you're about. And if there's a lot of bouncing around, you're going to feel inferior. So this is like me sitting in class when they have dads and donuts, and everyone else's dad's there, and I'm just eating my donut with my teacher, right? Or this is when parent-teacher conference comes, and everyone else's parents go, and the next day the teacher's like, yeah, I talked to your parents about you, and I talked to your parents about you. And they never said that about me because my parents didn't care, they never went. So I never had those experiences. Or like when it was volunteer time to go on the trip up to the zoo, and it was never my parents, it was always someone else's parents. And so for me, I'm thinking, this is a big part of our life. This is huge. How many of you guys started using between 10 and 12, or 10 and 15? I'll guarantee you this is where shiz started going wrong. Now we'll get to it, so hold that thought. Number 5, this is probably the worst one. This is the teenage years. This is ages 13 to 19. Lots of crap happens in this stage, correct? Chances are everyone that had a drug issue had it during this period of time. So this is identity versus role confusion. I'm going to keep picking on Marissa. Marissa, what do I mean by identity? Does that mean you have everything figured out?
This is the time you start figuring out your identity, trying things, practicing things, finding out what you like, what you don't like, what your talents are, who you are, friends.
I don't think any of my friends had a real firm grip of who they were, but I knew a couple of guys from high school that had a decent sense on who they were. Most of us came through this role confusion, meaning, what do I believe? What are my values? Who are the people that accept me? Because obviously the people that I'm trying to gravitate towards, they don't give a darn about me. So I'm going to go over here to this group who also feel a little bit confused. This is where friendships get developed. This is why people in addiction have such amazing friendships in this stage, is because that's family to them. That's real life. And then all of a sudden, when we start figuring out that those friends are maybe a little bit not so great influences, we won't see it. We'll hold on to it tighter because they're all we have. Because we don't have a sense of identity. We're still trying to figure it out. And we may try to have glimpses and pushes to this, but we still don't know because family systems are messed up. Mom and dad are having problems. Maybe there's divorce. Maybe you're on stepdad number 4 like I was. Maybe, who knows what the situation is. But more often than not, we're coming through here. So if you already feel inferior, here's me bouncing through school after school after school, and then getting into here where all of a sudden all my friends are like, no problem what's going on. I'm getting pulled out and go to resource classes and whatnot. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. Something's not ticking right. And this right here is what fuels addiction. Now here's the scary part, because now we're going to start touching base on where you are right now. This next stage, number 6, is very interesting to me. And I love working with this because it's so obvious what needs to change. This is age 20 to 40. Now we're starting to go full throttle, man. Now we're not like skipping just a few years at a time. Now we're getting into big segments of life. So this next stage, 20 to 40 years old, intimacy versus isolation. Marissa, am I talking sexual intimacy?
No.
What am I talking about?
Emotional, spiritual, it's everything.
Exactly.
How
Or-
we're able to have connections with other people on a deeper level, or feeling alone,
Feeling connected to
isolated,
someone, feeling understood, feeling like you have,
starting to do more connection with us.
I say you have comfortable silence. When you can be in the car with someone that you care about and you're not worried about, do they love me? Do they not? Should I say something? Should I ask something? Am I being too, comfortable silence is one of the most beautiful things. I can go for hours with comfortable silence. No, I'm just kidding. It's intimacy. It's having love. It's when you start producing a family. I get emotional talking about this. Start being able to divide your love for kids, for your own kids, and choosing to be a part of their lives. It's so amazing what this does. You start getting emotionally intimate with yourself, feeling like I can be sad because of this, or I can be upset with this. But then to understand that it all comes back to it's because you love. Or you isolate, which means if you feel inferior and you've been role confused, you get into a relationship and you begin to coexist, right? You can have a marriage that looks great on the outside, but on the inside you're isolating. There's no conversation, there's no communication, there's no real love. It's a marriage of convenience. That shouldn't be where it's at. And this is a big chunk of life. And about 40 years old and beyond, we start thinking, really? Is this it? Right? Number 7. Okay, again, we're going a little bit more full throttle here. This is generativity versus stagnation. Marissa, try to do your best to describe what generativity is.
So that's mainly, what are you generating? What have you created? Throughout your life, and stagnation, or just existing stagnant.
This is 40 to 60 years old. This is the other big chunk of life. This is about where midlife crisis kicks in, right? Because if you've been part of something, if you have an identity, if you know who you are, you have loved ones that love you back, you're generating something. You've done school, you have a career, you are a person of importance. And you feel good about it, you're generating, you're creating, right? You're getting to the point where your kids are now growing and you're seeing them become producers and creators. Or you're the get off my lawn guy. You're stagnant. Maybe you've been in and out of addiction your whole life. Maybe you've been in treatment, had bouts of prison, of jail time, of drug use, of sobriety. But life just didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. You're that get off my lawn guy. Can you know the get off my lawn guy? Huh? Those guys. Yeah, it's just there's so much sadness in this, because all of a sudden you wake up and you're 55 years old and you're like, what happened? Nothing sadder than seeing guys that are in this world where they're just stagnant. It's like, and stagnation, that word makes me sick even to think about. There was a time that Jed and I were doing the Tim Trail Marathon. We were supposed to be out picking up all the markers. If Jed was here, where did he go? Yeah. we had no water and everything. I remember we came up with this little puddle and I'm looking down at it and I'm like, I could probably drink around the Giardia. And I look down there and look at it, there's like bugs and stuff in there. I'm like, no, that water's been stagnant for way too long. I'm not gonna do that. Because that's what it is. It's just sitting there doing nothing. That is a sad situation to be in. I've seen funerals where two people have showed up to say goodbye to the loved one. That's a stagnant life. Generativity on the other side means that you are producing, you're creating. You can look back and say, I've done this. You know, people will remember something I've done, whether it's your children, a legacy, something. But then comes the last one. And this is, this is 60 years plus. Hopefully that plus is many more years. The last one we talk about is integrity versus despair. Marissa, integrity, looking back on life, what does it mean?
You feel whole, complete, honest, fulfilled. My perfect definition, integrity comes from, the root word is integer in math, which means what? A whole and complete number. It's not a fraction, it's not a decimal.
I like that.
Are you a whole and complete person, no matter who's watching, or are you a fraction of a person because you take the easy route, you steal, lie, cheat, and you're just part of a person because you're not doing everything.
Or looking back at life and saying, that sucked. I once saw a bumper sticker said, maybe the hokey pokey was what it was all about. Well, that would suck, right? But that's all life offered. My uncle is a perfect example of this. I love my uncle. He was a fun uncle. He was great. He died of severe alcoholism, having no one, after trying to strong arm rob a bank. And he died of alcoholism. I think that's got to be a miserable life, a miserable death. Or you can look back at it and you can say, you know what? Did good. I'm an honest person. Had some trials, had some problems, but you know what? Life was good. And you can leave and go on to whatever comes next after this with a feeling of, I did it right. I gave it all I got. I didn't leave anything unturned. So, most of us are in this area right here, which you're like, oh crap, but here's the beautiful part. Okay, this is what I love about this. This is a blueprint on how to fix it. So I say, how old were you when you first started to use? Okay. Let's have a game here. Jed, how old were you when you first started to use? First time you used anything, how old were you? 13. So Jed was right here. Identity versus role confusion, industry versus inferiority. Okay. So already I can say I know without a shadow of a doubt because I've had Jed in my therapeutic realms for 20 years now. How long has it? It's been about 20 years.
Holy got that 2 weeks ago. It's been about 20 years.
About 20 years. And I know he was real confused because he didn't have an identity, didn't know who he was. So what I say is, all right, let's say that we know without a shadow of a doubt when Jed started using it, he was in that role confused. Let's take a step back and find out why he didn't feel part of something and how he felt inferior. And if we can start right here and say, all right, if Jed feels inferior, he doesn't feel like he's part of something, let's make him feel like he's part of something. I think that's why Addict to Athlete worked so well for him. He now said, I'm part of this team. And not only am I part of this team, but I'm gonna do what I can to become a leader in this team. He formed an industry around his sobriety of Team Addict to Athlete, which formed an identity. I'm an athlete. I'm no longer an addict. I'm an athlete. And now I'm a father, and I'm a husband, and I'm a brother, and I'm a coach. And then you start getting into this intimacy versus isolation. He's able to have a family now, to be able to love his children, be able to love himself, be able to love the team. Jed talks a lot about this team. He reaches out more than anyone I know. He feels it. He feels it. And so that's where he's at. What you do, you guys, is you go back to about where things started going wrong. The first time, okay, you ever used anything, rewind the tape 2 years, and you'll find your activating event, I guarantee it. It's the craziest thing. Most of these kind of go back to here, right? How old are kids usually when parents get divorced? about right there, 4 to 6, sometimes 2 to 3. You start looking at that, you're like, all right, if my parents got divorced and the ground beneath me kind of fell out, you know, I was a real shy kid. I didn't get out and do much. I didn't feel like I was safe. I felt like, I felt like everything was my fault. Like the world was on my shoulders at this age. So you start doing things on your own. You start getting into a hobby. You start getting into interests. You start doing some service. Start taking initiative next to get involved into things. Part of an industry again. This is what's cool about this is the blueprint is all right here. If you're feeling any of these, you rewind the tape and you say, I've got to take initiative in my recovery, which means I'm not going to wait for my sponsor, my coach, or whatever to call me. I'm going to go out and find it for myself. I'm not waiting anymore. This is what's so cool about this. All it is a shift of perspective. And sometimes in the shift of perspective, we had time. I would throw you into the core issue to find out what really it was, and you can kill your addiction in a matter of moments. When you understand this blueprint, this principle, you guys, you start realizing that your addiction has been lying and cutting you into using for so long, when all you needed to do is see it for what it really is and move over. But you have to be aware of it, right? You've got to understand where it comes from, because talking about and processing the hurt, the pain that family systems and family life is in this section, it hurts. You have to go back and jump into some of the awful situations and things. But guess what? When you take initiative for your life, oh my gosh, when you trust me, Coach Blue, a therapist, Jed, Coach Jensen, a friend, someone that maybe has a different perspective, when you trust them, boom, let the dominoes fall, but don't get down here too soon unless you're in that paradigm. We don't want you to get down here quite yet. It is one of the most amazing things when you can recognize that you have a lot more awareness and a lot more control in this and choice. Above all else, you have a choice on either to be in the positive paradigm or the negative paradigm. And sometimes it's hard to shift over there, right? If you're feeling inferior because I'm not a good mom, I'm not a good dad, I'm not a good husband, push yourself over into that. Become a leader in your family system. This is one of the coolest things. I love it. It's when you really take recovery by the horns and you're like, I'm taking you to the mat. I'm not allowing this to be my life. The sad thing is you'll start seeing this in your friends and family, and you'll be like, come to a meeting, come to a race. I love that John was talking about this right here. This is why Team Addict to Athlete works right here. We lose athletes to run John's race when they go out and do an aid station. Because they're like, holy crap, I'm part of this Addict to Athlete team. I'm helping these people, but then I see all these runners come in. I'm a runner, I'm gonna do this. And we lose them each year. It was Marissa's brother, Jerem, who ran John's race, who said, Blue, get some of the teammates, let's go up and do an aid station. You were there, Ginger, you remember the first one we did. It was amazing. They even suckered me into running John's race. Part of an industry. Yeah, exactly. And then I saw Bows on Hill, never again. Part of an industry. This is why your team is so important. This is why Addict to Athlete, spirituality, 12 steps, Dharma recovery, whatever it is, this is why it's so important. That industry, you belong to something. You can create from there. So before we break, does anyone have any questions, any thoughts on this? Did I blow anyone's minds? No, because you're like, yeah, okay. Just, you heard this before, so that's good. Thank you, Steve. I'm glad Steve's back there, yeah. What does it make you think about? Yeah.
Well, kind of a question is, I feel like I'm like stuck in the 5 area, rule confusion.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like resentment, anger, and like acting out and rebellion still, as if I'm like a rebellious teenager.
Right.
Why do people rebel? My question is with that, but
why do you rebel?
It's like,
people rebel, why? Rebellion. Think about the Empire and the rebellion, right? Star Wars. Why did they rebel?
They just want to stick it to something.
Yeah.
Just screw it.
Hey, why are you guys suppressing me? Why am I the one that's feeling less than, right? I thought I was part of something, but obviously you guys aren't cool. You start feeling inferior, start feeling suppressed. And you're like, I'm not doing it, I'm rebelling, man. I'm pushing out of this. And then you get in there like, you're like the fish in Finding Nemo, right? You're in the bay, but but you're still in the badge, you're like, okay, so now what? We got to this point, but now what, guys? So now you're confused, like, where do I fit, right? Brandon, I would take a step back here and look at industry versus inferiority. This is one thing I think, if you mind me being like very blunt and honest with you, this is one thing you have a hard time with because people leave. You had someone that left you just recently, from what Marissa told me, passed away. How can you form an industry when the people that you surround yourself with, they leave, right? It's time to step up, maybe even get back here and start looking at initiative versus guilt. Get initiative to start following through. So I'm so glad to see you here today. It's because you're like, I'm going. You didn't have to come here today, but you're here. So sometimes it's taking a few steps back, right? Autonomy, you got this down, brother. You can survive. You can be alone. But now it's time for you to start taking initiative to build on it. Like what you just did today. What you did today was perfect. You had a heavy heart. You could have went and done anything with it, but instead you're here with the team. Does that make sense? Forming a new identity, all kinds of stuff, man. This is where it all begins. If I were you, I'd take a deep look at this one. Because I think you're transitioning. This is what's so cool, you guys. You take this serious, you figure it all out. And if you've got kids, 2 13-year-olds that look like they're about 17-year-olds, right? This is where you guys are right now. This is exactly where you are. This is being a 13-year-old is kind of crazy these days, I would imagine. Form your identity, stand up for your beliefs, figure out what your likes are, your dislikes are. Don't surrender yourself to like what's popular. Be that person that stands up. I love it. I think this is one of the neatest things. And when I saw this for what it really was, not just a stage that we go through, to recognize where things either went well or went wrong, it'll solve the problem. It's the beginning stage, the foundation to figure out why your addiction took over. I love it. Yeah.
The reason I like it is as a mom, like through addiction, we put our kids through a lot of trauma, a lot of experiences, and they don't get, for some like mine, they just get to go through those stages and come out of each stage the way they should have. And the thing I like about it is you can go back.
You can
go back and fix it. You can go back and go through those stages.
Yep.
It's not too late.
It's never too late. They say success by 6, but when you realize this, and you've got kids that maybe have this guilty conscience for some reason, they're always apologizing, they're always worried. And you start giving them things they can do for themselves, by themselves, you can go back and fix this stuff. That's what's great about it. Adults can do it, kids can do it. This is the big one. I mean, can you see why this is so important? It's the platform on everything else. So
Well,
I love it.
A lot of it too is if you do one thing and you're like, no, it didn't work, do it again, find something else. Like if you're feeling like you need to work on the initiative and trying new things and doing it by yourself or whatever, then keep trying other things till you feel more confident in stage 3. And then, okay, industry, what things can I become a part of? And try a lot of them. It doesn't need to be like, okay, it's Addict athlete and that's it. Like try a lot of different things that you can feel a part of.
Jed started in Addict artist, and we're like, no, we need you over here. It doesn't matter where you start. Yeah, it's one of the neatest things. I will post this along with that, so you guys can go back and refer to it if you want. Jed, you have something?
I've probably heard this well, actually, I'm sure I've heard this.
Yes, you have.
More than any person in here, because like Bruce said.
20 years.
20 years of listening to this and actually going back and taking different parts of my life and looking at this, maybe not exactly the way that Blue has it written down, but looking at it, be able to go through and change different parts of my life and like the trust and mistrust. I got a newborn child at home. There's many times that pops in my mind, thinking about this lesson right here, looking at my kids and that, and making sure that I'm going through and I'm doing the things that I need to do that's put up there, written down for me. That way I know that I'm helping them go on the right path. So sometimes it's very easy just to. Yeah, well, I don't be helping them that anymore. I sleep right through that. But no, I've learned a lot. I'll say this is probably the one meeting that I've learned the most from that I've ever heard you teach. Awesome.
Yeah,
When he posts this later, take a good look at it.
take a look at it.
Well, I believe a lot of the steps people look at, I need to find people I trust. Well, there's no one in my life that I trust, so I'm screwed. No, number one is, can I trust myself? And that's the same with babies. You know, when they have something that hurts and the mom comes, they trust themselves that I hurt, so I cry to get help. So if mom doesn't come, they don't trust those inside feelings either. So it's hard for them to trust themselves. And then mom doesn't come, so they don't trust other people. So number one, you have to learn, what are some things I can do to trust myself? And that's gonna be following through. If you say something, you follow through and you did it. And then autonomy, what can you do for yourself, not an industry, it's not just for other people. Maybe you create something and invite other people to be a part of it.
That's
Yeah.
what this was. That's what 10 years ago, when we thought there's gotta be something else out there, that's why Addict started. There wasn't enough industry for people to be a part of. And I'm like, well, there's this paradigm, but there's gotta be more. 10 years ago, after that, programs started popping up everywhere. Fit to Recover, Recovery Strong, all these other groups, you know, that came up after. And the cool part about that is that they're like, if I see a need in my community, I'm creating it, I'm putting it in industry. So it's not a competition, it's a shared platform of like, yeah, we need more creators. That's what I love about this too. So if you guys have any questions about this, shoot me a message too. This coincides with the core issue. We'll do that again, maybe some other next time, but like, it's cool because it puts you in control of knowing that your addiction doesn't have the best of you. It's trying to convince you it does. And so once you know more than it, you got it made. Athletes, who am I?
I'm champion.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're gonna now glad I lost my dongle. Huh.
That's the